I slammed my laptop shut so hard, the sound echoed through our tiny kitchen like a gunshot. Mark stood in the doorway, arms crossed, wearing that expression he always got when he wanted something from me. Behind him, I could see Liam bouncing on the living room couch, tablet already dead because nobody ever remembered to charge the thing. "You're taking him with you to campus," Mark said, not asked. "We'll be back by 8. My stomach dropped. It was Saturday morning, barely 7, and I had exactly 48 hours to finish an assignment worth 30% of my grade. The library would be quiet, peaceful, perfect for the kind of deep focus I desperately needed. Taking an 11-year-old kid to a university library was like bringing a firecracker to a funeral. "I can't," I said, keeping my voice level. "I have a huge project due Monday morning. I need to concentrate." Mark waved his hand like he was swatting away a fly. "He'll be fine on the tablet. Just stick him in a corner." "His tablet's dead. Then he can use yours." The audacity of it hit me like cold water. This man, who'd been dating my mom for barely a year, thought he could just commandeer my Sunday, my education, my future, because planning childcare was too much hassle? "No," I said firmly. "Call his mom, or his grandmother, or literally anyone whose actual job it is to watch him." Mark's face darkened. "You know his mom's working doubles all weekend. His grandmother lives 3 hours away. We already have plans, and you're just going to the library anyway." "To work. You can work with him there." My hands clenched into fists. I'd been carrying so much stress lately. Group projects where nobody pulled their weight, exams that determined whether I'd keep my scholarship, the constant background noise of living in a house that never felt like mine. This moment, this entitled demand, felt like the final straw being loaded onto a bridge already cracking under too much weight. I stood up, chair scraping against the linoleum. "Liam is your son, Mark, not mine. I didn't choose to have a kid I wasn't ready for. My only responsibility is getting my degree and getting out of this house." The silence that followed was devastating. Mark's face went from red to pale. From the living room, even Liam had stopped bouncing. Mom appeared in the hallway, still in her bathrobe, eyes wide. "What did you just say?" she whispered. I grabbed my bag, heart hammering. "I said what I meant." Mark recovered first, his voice cold as winter. "Fine, but don't come asking us for any favors in the future." I walked out before either of them could see my hands shaking. The campus library was exactly what I needed, quiet and temperature-controlled, smelling like old books and strong coffee from the cafe on the first floor. I found my usual spot in the corner of the 3rd floor, windows overlooking the quad, and spread out my materials. Constitutional law wasn't my favorite subject, but the professor had a reputation for failing anyone who turned in subpar work, and I couldn't afford subpar. My phone buzzed within an hour. Mom's name lit up the screen. I declined the call and silenced the phone entirely, burying it in my bag. Focus came slowly. Every time I started to sink into the reading, I'd remember Mark's face, Mom's whisper, the way I'd felt cornered in my own kitchen. Had I been too harsh? Liam was just a kid. But that wasn't the point. The point was I'd been treated like free labor, like my time and my future mattered less than their convenience. By noon, I'd made decent progress. The library filled with other students, everyone hunched over laptops or sprawled across study tables with highlighters and energy drinks. I recognized a few faces from my classes, gave polite nods, kept working. My phone buzzed again at 2. This time, I checked it during a bathroom break. 3 missed calls from Mom, 2 texts. "We need to talk about this morning. You were incredibly disrespectful to Mark, and you owe him an apology." I deleted both messages without responding. The thing nobody tells you about family drama is how it poisons your concentration. I kept reading the same paragraph about judicial review over and over, the words sliding off my brain like oil on water. Finally, I gave up and went to get coffee. The campus was beautiful in autumn, leaves turning gold and red, students throwing frisbees on the quad despite the chill. I stood in line at the cafe, watching them through the window. They looked so carefree, so unburdened. I wondered what that felt like. "Rough day?" I turned. The girl behind me in line was from my constitutional law class, though I'd never learned her name. She had purple streaks in her dark hair and a piercing through her eyebrow that somehow looked professional. Is it that obvious? You've been staring at the menu for 5 minutes, and there's only 3 options. She grinned. I'm Maya, by the way. You're in Professor Richardson's class, right? Unfortunately, I managed a smile. I'm spending my entire weekend on his assignment. Same. Want to study together? Sometimes 2 brains are better than 1, especially with Richardson's impossible prompts. I hesitated. I usually studied alone, but maybe a distraction would help reset my brain. Sure, why not? We grabbed our coffees and headed back upstairs. Maya was sharp, catching connections I'd missed, asking questions that made me think differently about the material. For a few hours, I almost forgot about the morning's disaster. Almost. At 6, my stomach reminded me I hadn't eaten since breakfast. Maya suggested the dining hall, and we packed up our stuff. Walking across campus, she asked casual questions. Major, year, where I lived. I kept my answers vague. She didn't need to know about Mark or Liam or the mess waiting for me at home. Except as we approached the dining hall, I saw them, Mom and Mark, sitting in his car in the parking lot, waiting. Oh no, I breathed. What? Maya followed my gaze. Friends of yours? Worse, family. Mom spotted me and got out of the car. Her face was set in that expression I knew too well, the one that meant we were going to have a conversation whether I wanted to or not. We need to talk, she called across the parking lot. Students turned to look. My face burned. Not here. Then where? You won't answer your phone. Maya touched my arm lightly. Want me to stick around? I shook my head. I'll be fine. Thanks for today. She gave Mom and Mark a skeptical look before heading into the dining hall. I walked over to the car slowly, feeling like I was walking to my execution. Get in, Mark said from the driver's seat. I'm not going anywhere with you. Mom's voice cracked. Please, we just want to talk. Against my better judgment, I got in the back seat. The car smelled like fast food and Mark's cologne, a combination that made my stomach turn. You humiliated me this morning, Mark started, not bothering with preamble. In my own house. Your house? The words escaped before I could stop them. Last I checked, Mom pays half the rent. That's not the point, Mom interjected quickly. You were cruel. Mark was just asking for a small favor. A small favor? Mom, I had a major assignment due. Taking care of an 11-year-old for an entire day isn't small, it's huge. And he didn't ask, he told me, like I don't have a choice. Mark twisted in his seat to face me. You live under my roof. You eat food I pay for. The least you can do is help out occasionally. The words hung in the air like poison gas. Under his roof. Like I was some charity case, some burden they were graciously shouldering. I pay rent, I said quietly. $300 a month, which is all I can afford on my part-time campus job. I buy my own groceries. I clean up after myself. I'm not asking you for anything except to be left alone to finish my degree. $300 doesn't cover your share of utilities, Mark shot back, or internet, or the water you use for your hour-long showers. Mom winced. Mark, that's not helpful. I'm just being honest. She wants to be treated like an adult? Fine. Adults contribute to the household. They help when family needs them. Liam isn't my family. The words came out harder than I intended. He's your son. I'm sorry if that's harsh, but it's true. I didn't sign up to be his babysitter or his big sister or whatever role you're trying to force me into. Silence filled the car. Outside, students walked by laughing, heading to dinner or the library or wherever their normal, uncomplicated lives took them. Mom's voice was small when she spoke. Is that really how you feel? That Liam isn't family? The guilt tried to claw its way up my throat, but I swallowed it down. I barely know him, Mom. You and Mark have been together a year. Before that, I'd never met either of them. You can't just create a family by declaration and expect everyone to fall in line. We're trying to build something here, Mark said, and for the first time, he sounded less angry and more tired. After your parents' divorce, I thought maybe we could give you a stable home, a fresh start. I didn't ask for a fresh start. I asked to be allowed to finish college without extra responsibilities I never agreed to take on. Mom reached back and grabbed my hand. Honey, we're not trying to burden you, but sometimes families need to make sacrifices for each other. I pulled my hand away gently. Then sacrifice your Saturday plans, not my education. I got out of the car before either of them could respond, walking quickly back toward the library. My hands were shaking again, and my eyes burned with tears I refused to let fall in public. Maya was sitting on the steps of the library, clearly waiting. She stood when she saw me. That looked intense. You have no idea. Want to talk about it? I shook my head. I want to finish this assignment and pretend this day never happened. We worked until the library closed at midnight. Maya didn't pry, just kept things focused on constitutional law and judicial precedent, occasionally making dry jokes about Professor Richardson's bow ties. By the time we parted ways in the parking lot, I felt almost human again. The house was dark when I got home. I crept in quietly, hoping everyone was asleep. But as I passed the living room, I saw Mark sitting in the dark, laptop open, the blue glow illuminating his face. Have a good study session? He asked. I paused in the doorway. It was productive. Good. That's what you wanted, right? To prioritize your education above everything else. There was something in his tone that made my skin prickle. What's that supposed to mean? He closed the laptop. I'm just wondering if it ever occurred to you that other people have important things going on too. Your mom had a job interview today, a really important one, the kind that could change her career. But she missed it because we couldn't find childcare for Liam, and I had a client meeting I couldn't reschedule. The words hit like a physical blow. She never told me about any interview. She didn't want to pressure you. She knew you had your assignment. He stood up, and even in the darkness, I could see the disappointment on his face. But I guess that's the difference between you and her. She puts family first, even when it costs her. He walked past me toward the bedroom, leaving me standing alone in the dark hallway. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, Mark's words circling my brain like sharks. Mom had missed a job interview, an important one. Because of me? No, not because of me. Because they'd assumed I'd be available. Because they'd tried to voluntold me into babysitting. Because apparently nobody in this house knew how to communicate like adults. But the guilt wouldn't let go that easily. What if the interview had been life-changing? What if Mom had been counting on me and I'd let her down? At 6 a.m, I gave up on sleep and went to the kitchen. Mom was already there, making coffee, still in her pajamas. She looked tired, older somehow than she had yesterday morning. Couldn't sleep either? She asked quietly. I sat at the table. Mark told me about your interview. Her hand stilled on the coffee pot. He shouldn't have. Why didn't you tell me? She poured 2 cups, brought them to the table, sat down across from me. Because it wasn't your problem to solve. You had your assignment. I'm the parent, remember? I'm supposed to figure these things out. But you couldn't, because of me. No. She reached across and squeezed my hand. Because I didn't plan well enough. I knew about the interview for 2 weeks. I should have arranged backup childcare sooner. Mark's right that I put too much on you sometimes, and that's on me, not you. The knot in my chest loosened slightly. I'm sorry I said what I said. About Liam not being my responsibility. It came out harsher than I meant. Mom smiled sadly. But you weren't wrong. He's not your responsibility. He's ours. Mark and I have been together a year, and we're still figuring out how to blend our lives, let alone blend a whole family. We can't expect you to just slot into place like a puzzle piece. Mark seems to think I should, she sighed. Mark comes from a big family where everyone helped raise everyone else's kids. It's what he knows. He doesn't get that not everyone works that way, or that you're not actually his kid, and you don't owe him anything. Will you reschedule the interview? Already did. It's next Friday, and I've arranged for Liam to stay with a friend family that afternoon, so it's covered. She paused. I'm proud of you, for standing up for yourself, for knowing your boundaries. I wasn't good at that at your age. I felt terrible about it. Good boundaries often do, at first. Doesn't make them wrong. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, drinking our coffee as dawn light filtered through the kitchen window. "Mark said I shouldn't ask for favors anymore," I said finally. Mom rolled her eyes. "Mark says a lot of things when he's angry. He'll get over it. And if he doesn't, well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it." The front door opened and Mark came in, dressed for a morning run, earbuds in. He stopped short when he saw us at the table. "Morning," he said stiffly. "Morning," I replied. He got water from the fridge, pointedly not looking at either of us. The tension was thick enough to cut. Mom cleared her throat. "Mark, can we talk for a minute?" He pulled out his earbuds. "About what?" "About Saturday, and expectations, and how we're all going to live in this house without killing each other." I stood up. "I should go." "No," Mom said firmly. "Stay. This involves you, too." So I sat back down, and for the next hour, we had the conversation we probably should have had a year ago when Mark first moved in, about boundaries and responsibilities and what helping out actually meant versus what taking advantage looked like. It was awkward and uncomfortable, and Mark didn't agree with everything I said, but he listened, really listened. "I still think family should help family," he said at the end. "But I hear you, that we can't just spring things on you last minute, and I'm sorry about the job interview, to both of you." It wasn't perfect. The tension didn't magically disappear, but it was something, a foundation we could maybe build on. I spent the rest of Sunday at the library and turned in my assignment Monday morning with 10 minutes to spare. Got a B+, which Professor Richardson said was better than most of the class managed. Maya and I started studying together regularly, and eventually I told her the whole story over coffee one afternoon. "Family's complicated," she said simply, "but at least yours is trying." She was right. A month later, Mom got the job. The new position came with better pay and more flexible hours, which meant less stress for everyone. Mark started actually asking if I was available before making plans that involved Liam. And Liam himself, once I wasn't being forced into babysitter role, became easier to be around. We found a rhythm, the four of us. Not quite a traditional family, but something that worked for us. The morning of Mom's first day at the new job, I found Mark in the kitchen making breakfast. He glanced at me, then said gruffly, "Thanks for that Saturday, for standing your ground. Made us figure our stuff out, and we needed that." I poured myself coffee. "You're welcome, I think." He almost smiled. "Your mom raised a strong kid. Just don't tell her I said that. She'll get all emotional." It wasn't a fairy tale ending. We still had disagreements, still had moments of tension, but we'd learned how to talk about them, how to respect each other's boundaries while still being there when it really mattered. And sometimes that's the best you can hope for. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Did I handle the situation correctly, or should I have just helped out that one time?